When does post-trauma end for a survivor of sexual abuse? Never. The message sounded loud and clear by Inger Robertson, keynote speaker at the annual Our Children Project fundraising luncheon. Inger Robertson dispels many myths and misconcepts about victims of sexual abuse. Today's director of A Better Way, the domestic violence shelter in Victorville, is a survivor who first experienced abuse at age 5.
There was this perfect storm that happened.
Explaining that if we don't do intervention early, just what kind of things can transpire and what a difference early intervention can make in this topic, because for a long time people just said, oh, kids will get over this, and not deal with it right away.
Do not tell me I can't be angry. I am not going to allow anybody to tell me that again. And you go right back in that house. And he says, I would. But there is no denying that my life changed after that. People have things still locked up inside of them. And it makes all the difference when you acknowledge it and get through it in a healthier way. At the same time, it is the reality. And all of these things, I was told I couldn't be angry about what happened to me. And I've worked with other women that they were told they couldn't cry. And what's been interesting is whatever the thing is that you were told you couldn't do is the very thing that you probably needed to do. And when some of the women who were told, you can't cry about this, once they started, they looked and they're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to stop. It's like, just go, just do it. And for me, say hello to my friend. There had been so much rage bottled up inside of me.
The Our Children Foundation is something that I've heard about because I'm a domestic violence executive director with A Better Way. It is one of the partnerships, but it's also very much linked. A lot of times, in my 30 years of walking beside people that have been through abuse, whether in childhood or not, I would say there's only been about 5 that couldn't say that they had anything of childhood sexual abuse in their background.
And you were such a victim?
Correct.
How difficult was it originally to address it, to come out and talk about it?
It was pretty much told I had to suppress it, and a lot of that had a lot of ramifications, which I'll be talking about today, and the difference that just being in a room knowing you're not the only person can make for such little ones.
When you are, or a lot of children that are in the single-digit ages, if they're singled out, we always hear about fight and flight. But there's 3 F's to the responses that people can have. And the third one is freeze. And when you're a child, and you're very, very aware that your entire existence is about all these adults around you, all these perceived adults, even if they're teenagers, you freeze. It's not like you're a teenager who has friends and you can run away and all this other stuff. You just freeze. Well, some of these things will follow someone into their adulthood. So as I became an adult, if someone was confrontational and other stuff, I learned to freeze. That was my first experience. So these are strategies that I took on that followed me into adulthood because I didn't have support or help or ways of coping with it in the early days. I am so glad we are past that time period where we don't talk about it. I am so glad we now understand that myth about, oh, they're so young, they'll never even remember. Because now we know trauma burns itself in your brain. This particular organization holds a deep part in my heart because of my own story. That's why I'm here. Art has also been very therapeutic for me through the years. But this right here is a piece that speaks to What happens when a child is left alone to try to figure out how to place all these pieces together when you have been sexually molested? But the program that we're here to talk and celebrate and support today, parents are involved, the children are involved, and so is the offender. And I always wonder if someone had just taken time to take this teenager by the ear and sit him down and go, curiosity's okay. This is not. And then spend some time, would it have made a difference? And we have something in our own community that deals with all sides of this from the very beginning. So they don't have to go through all of this journey. As with anything, if you're a believer, it can be redeemed. I'm reintegrated. The little girl in me did grow up. I now have boundaries, and I know what they are. And the scars are golden because you can share them and let people know that they can be different. But if we can get that sooner for these kids, that's everything. Thank you for your time.
The Our Children Project responds to the needs of sexually abused children, providing counseling to the children and their families. It is the only program of its kind in the high desert.